So as most of you know, I have three main categories on this channel: movie reviews, comedy skits, and short films. But starting today, I think I'd like to try something new. Today I proudly present to you my very first top 10 list. After watching popular channels such as Watch Mojo, it seems like it could be very entertaining for an audience to watch, as well as something great for me to write. But that sort of begs the question, what should I count down? There are so many things to talk about, and not to mention a plethora of top 10s already posted to this website. But then, I remembered something.
Are you ready, kids?
Aye, aye, Captain!
I can't hear you!
Aye, aye, Captain!
Oh!
Yeah, you could probably make a drinking game out of every time I've referenced a SpongeBob episode in my videos.
One day, on the beach, it was so hot, and I was so thirsty, I spit on a soda.
And there's a reason for that. Simply put, I love SpongeBob. Since I grew up in 1999, the year the show was launched, I grew up at a perfect time to be watching it. And it's had a gigantic influence on my sense of humor and the way I write videos in general. That's why today I proudly present to you the top 10 greatest SpongeBob episodes. But I should note before starting that you will be very disappointed if you expect any episodes from season 4 and on to be on this list. It's a very popular notion that after the 2004 movie, episodes took a slow decline into absolute crap. And yeah, I definitely agree. It's a shame, but seasons 1 to 3 are really the only ones with the perfect track record. And with that said, let's begin. Number 10. To me, when Squidward gets to be the main character of an episode, it's a complete gem. And this episode's no exception. In Dying for Pie, Mr. Krabs holds the annual Employee Brotherhood Day. SpongeBob gives Squidward a sweater made out of his own eyelashes. Of course. But Squidward didn't get SpongeBob anything. So out of pure obligation, Squidward goes out and buys a pie for SpongeBob. But when Squidward finds out the pie is actually a disguised bomb, as well as assumes Squidward already ate the pie, Squidward does his best to make SpongeBob's final hours the best he's ever had. So much that he's gonna drown in it. This is by far one of the most smartly written episodes on the show. You're really not sure how the episode's gonna turn out, and the way it does turn out is absolutely brilliant. My favorite part of the episode is when Squidward buys the pie from a group of pirates. The way the pirates react to this is hilarious and makes me laugh every time.
Those homemade pies sure look good.
Oh, these aren't homemade. They were made in a factory. A bomb factory. They're bombs.
There's other great jokes like SpongeBob showing his best friend Squidward to everybody in town, as well as when Squidward literally puts up a brick wall between him and SpongeBob. But that's just the surface. There's plenty of other great jokes in this episode. I'll just leave it at this. It's got pie, it's got bombs, and most importantly, it's got laughs. What more could you ask for? Next. Number 9. Krusty Krab training video. Now this may not be the deepest or most character-driven episode in the series, and the story is nothing more than what the title suggests, a restaurant training video for the Krusty Krab. So then, what exactly possessed me to put this as one of the 10 best? Well, this episode, unlike others, is highly reliant on the style to keep you interested. And I don't think that's a bad thing either. You can tell that the writers knew exactly where to go with this episode and knew exactly how they were going to do it. Each character gets their moment too. We have SpongeBob getting overexcited, Squidward getting underexcited, Patrick trying to decide what to order, and a backstory of Mr. Krabs, including a look at how the Krusty Krab got its name. There's also this massive build-up of revealing what the Krabby Patty's secret formula is. And where do they go with it? Nowhere. They literally cut off the narrator right before they reveal what it is. As a child, I hated that ending. But you know what? I actually kinda like it that way. It'd be weird if they were to actually tell us the secret formula. Not to mention it would be a very awkward way of ending such a perfect episode. Thankfully the writers, at the time anyway, were smart enough not to make such a mistake. Number 8. Now with this being my list, I do admit that some picks are going to be more biased than others. Boho San is a perfect example. While I do still think this is a classic episode with some memorable lines here and there, I chose this episode mostly based off the nostalgia factor. I mean, come on, there's literally footage of me from 10 years ago reenacting the entire bubble technique. How could I not put this episode on the list? Oh no.
Jack, what's the technique for blowing bubbles?
But like I said, this episode's still pretty great. There are classic jokes like this.
It's a giraffe!
There's Patrick borrowing a quarter from SpongeBob, just so he can give it back again. And of course, there's the bubble blowing technique. That's what everyone seems to remember from this episode. As a kid, it's hard to resist memorizing it, as you saw earlier, and it's definitely the most unique routine I've seen for blowing bubbles. Well, let me rephrase that. It's the only routine I've seen for blowing bubbles. Number 7. Graveyard Shift. In this Season 2 episode, Mr. Krabs decides to start keeping the Krusty Krab open 24 hours a day. Which, yes, means that it's open forever. And after discovering SpongeBob's fear of the dark, Squidward taunts SpongeBob by improvising a story about the hash-slinging slasher. It's a pretty simple plot, but I assure you it's much more than that. I've always loved this episode, but it wasn't until I rewatched it to prep for this video that I realized how good it is. There's great gags like, at night, the walls oozing green slime, and this.
Who wants a Krabby Patty at 3 in the morning? Oh boy, 3 a.m.
What I think really makes this episode great is the way Squidward tells the horror story to SpongeBob. The scene goes for about 3 or 4 minutes, but they manage to keep you interested throughout the entire thing. I love Squidward's improvisations, and SpongeBob eating his own hands is priceless. And of course, it all leads up to this.
SpongeBob, I would...
I also love the ending of the episode. It's a very clever way of tying everything together, and yes, in case you're wondering, it did take me forever to find out what Nosferatu is. Number 6. Unlike the 4 episodes that I've already talked about in this countdown, Can You Spare a Dime is actually a very underrated episode that deserves more attention in my opinion. I mean, it's not like people are bashing it, but people certainly don't consider it to be an all-time best like Pizza Delivery or Band Geeks. So what's the plot of this episode? Well, it's kinda difficult to explain everything that happens, but I'll do my best to condense it. So Mr. Krabs can't find his special dime and accuses Squidward of stealing it. This upsets Squidward, so he ends up quitting his job as a cashier and, of course, ends up living on the streets dirt poor. Luckily, SpongeBob allows him to crash at his place for a while, but he ends up staying so long that SpongeBob loses it and forces Mr. Krabs to give Squidward his job back. So, what exactly makes this episode so great? Obviously, the plot is a bit strange and a lot happens within just 11 minutes. The writers keep you interested through all those twists and turns with great jokes and a very fast pace that wastes no time. Seasons 5 to 10, you should take notes. There are a lot of great jokes in this episode. But I think I might just leave it at what might be my all-time favorite joke from really any SpongeBob episode.
'Cause you and me, we're like brothers, only closer.
The way Squidward screams and how they just kind of move on and never address it again has me cracking up every time. Number 5. Pizza Delivery is a classic episode among SpongeBob fans, and honestly, there's really not much I can say about the episode that hasn't been said a million times before. The plot is simple. Mr. Krabs decides to start delivering pizza to his customers, and sends Squidward and SpongeBob out to deliver the very first Krusty Krab pizza. There are a few great gags like old pioneer tricks and this.
Krusty Krab, pizza is the pizza, yeah, for you and me.
But as many fans agree, the ending is what really makes this episode so perfect. When the two finally do reach the customer, the guy refuses to buy the pizza because they forgot his drink. Obviously, this upsets SpongeBob, and for the first time ever, Squidward sticks up for him by forcing the man to eat his meal. This is a really touching scene that once again proves why Squidward, in my opinion, is by far the best character on the show. Of course, it would be strange if Squidward's character completely changed after that, but it's still really refreshing to see him finally do something nice for SpongeBob. Not only that, but it makes Pizza Delivery an extraordinary episode that lands number 5 on this countdown. Number 4. Well, I think you all were waiting for this one. I of course had to put camping on this list. Not just because everyone loves it so much, but it's just a really entertaining episode. Like Can You Spare a Dime, camping has a very fast pace and makes sure it's not wasting your time. My favorite part of the episode is when Squidward tries to build a tent. I love how SpongeBob and Patrick actually take it all seriously and try to take notes from Squidward's actions.
It isn't put up yet, you idiots.
Customization!
Genius!
He's tenderizing the ground!
Of course!
Write that down, write that down!
That scene is just perfect. And of course, there's the iconic campfire song. I think I hear people singing this song at least 2 times a month at my school. And if you grew up with SpongeBob, it's pretty much guaranteed you'll have it memorized. And no, I do not have a home video of me singing it. Then of course, there's the sea bear attack. I love how the sea bear continuously comes in to attack Squidward, but then swims away in a nonchalant manner. In summary, it's an episode with a simplistic plot, but at the same time, some great jokes and a great song. Number 3. Sailor Mouth is an episode that proves SpongeBob is just as much for adults as it is for kids. In fact, in this episode, it's more for adults. In Sailor Mouth, SpongeBob reads graffiti off a dumpster from behind the Krusty Krab and comes across a word that we later find out is one of the 13 bad words. But Patrick just tells him that it will make your sentences fancier and that using them will create a
spicy sentence sandwich.
So after that, the two set out to start using their new fancy talk. What really makes this episode so great is its parody of TV censorship. It's genius because while they do still imply that what they're saying is a swear word, they replace the common bleep sound with a dolphin squeal to give a sort of childish effect. That's a really nice touch, and it makes it all the more hilarious when you realize what they're satirizing. Another great moment is when SpongeBob reads off the dumpster writing. I love the line, "Nematodes are people too," as well as the part where SpongeBob finishes the writing.
Here's one somebody didn't finish. Squidward smells good.
Unfortunately, this episode was not without negative reception. I guess that's expected when you're dealing with such a serious topic as swearing. But honestly, when I see someone getting up in arms over words that aren't even mentioned in the episode, I picture that one kid at a party that just can't seem to have any fun. And I mean, let's face it guys, swearing is far from the worst adult content put on the show. Remember Gary Takes a Bath?
It's treasure! Look, doubloons! Don't drop them.
Yeah. Number 2. Geeks is considered by many fans to be the greatest SpongeBob episode, and for good reason. While it may not be my personal favorite, it still lands a very high spot on my list and deserves every bit of praise it receives. In this episode, we get an introduction of Squidward's archenemy, Squilliam, and to avoid ridicule, Squidward lies to him saying that he doesn't serve fast food, and that he has a band that will be playing the Bubble Bowl. Obviously, Squidward doesn't have a band, so he gets the citizens of the Bikini Bottom to help him out. This is where the laughs start. Almost every character that's been on the show is in this episode, and like the Krusty Krab training video, each one gets their time to shine. We see Sandy beating up Patrick, Patrick getting beat up by Sandy, Mr. Krabs in his big meaty claws, Plankton trying to play the harmonica, and SpongeBob's hilarious motivational speech towards the ending. And of course, there's Squidward. Remember how I said that when Squidward is the main character, it's a complete gem? Well, Geeks stands out among all these episodes because unlike camping or pizza delivery, Squidward actually comes out on top in this episode, which is really refreshing because when we see in any other case, Squidward just can't seem to get a break. But before we move on to number 1, there's one more thing I must talk about. Sweet Victory is the best way they could have ended this episode, and they take full advantage of it too. The show's been known for having some great songs in the past, and Sweet Victory takes the cake. Every aspect of the song is extremely pleasing to the ear, and I must give props to David Glenn Isley for writing such a spectacular rock ballad. In summary, Geeks is an all-around awesome episode, and is a must-watch for those who are just now getting around to watching SpongeBob. Now, some of you might be wondering if I have some honorable mentions for this list, but here's the thing. I either love or really like every episode that came out of seasons 1 to 3, and I think if I were to list any honorable mentions, we'd be here all day. So without further ado, let's get to number 1.
And
the number 1 greatest SpongeBob episode is... Just kidding. Number 1 for me is without a doubt Chocolate with Nuts. The crazy thing about this pick is that I've been playing this video for a very long time now, and up until just a couple weeks ago, I really had no idea what number 1 should have been. I knew that favorites like Geeks, Camping, and Sailor Mouth had to make the list, but I didn't know which episode deserved the top spot. That is until I rewatched Chocolate with Nuts. It's a perfect episode that literally kept me laughing from start to finish.
So, how long have you two ladies known each other? What? What did he say?
The plot starts when SpongeBob and Patrick read through a Fancy Living Digest magazine and decide to start selling chocolate bars in hopes of achieving that high lifestyle. After this, we get hilarious scene after hilarious scene of SpongeBob and Patrick attempting to sell chocolate bars. The great thing about this episode is that there's something very strange about almost every house they go to visit. First, they're chased by Tom, who we find out goes berserk over chocolate! Yeah, that. Then there's the con man that tricks them into buying candy bar carrying bags as well as candy bar bag carrying bags. Then there's Patrick, who flatters a customer possibly a bit too much.
Hello? I love you.
And the list goes on. I found myself laughing at this episode at least every 15 seconds, and that's what I call consistency. Another great part of this episode is how it parodies modern marketing strategies by showing how businesses like to stretch the truth. So I think you guys have heard enough. Chocolate with Nuts is a perfect episode that knows exactly what to do with each scene it creates, as well as keeps you laughing from start to finish, making it what I think is the ideal SpongeBob episode. So if you haven't seen it already, or really any episode on this list, I suggest watching them ASAP. So, I think that concludes my first ever top 10 list. Now, I sincerely hope this video fixed those who were under the delusion that SpongeBob is a simple kids show, because that's far from the truth. There's a reason I still watch and endlessly quote SpongeBob to this day, and no, it is not because of pure nostalgia. As a kid, I loved SpongeBob for its silly jokes and silly characters. And now, 10 years later, I love it for something a little bit more than that. Not only does the show have a bunch of adult jokes that I didn't get until now, but the show has a thing or two to say about innocence, kindness, determination, friendship, and many other simple life lessons that, while very simple, are often buried under the complexities life can throw at you. And that's one of the main reasons SpongeBob SquarePants is still one of my all-time favorite shows. There may be other cartoons out there that people argue are better than SpongeBob, and I'm by no means saying those arguments are invalid, but the difference between those shows and SpongeBob is that not only did I grow up with SpongeBob, but the show, in a way, kinda grew up with me. Becoming more than just silly jokes and silly characters, SpongeBob SquarePants is a quintessential Nickelodeon cartoon that people of all ages deserve to watch. I'm 0816egg, and as always, if you enjoyed this video and you would like to see more content, please subscribe by clicking the annotation at the end of this video, and as always, I will see you at the next video.